Hi, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make the Diamonds and Cables backpack. Well, let me show you what you're going to need. You can find the pattern for this project in my leaflet Bags and Backpacks published by Leisure Arts, and you can get that at the link in the video description below. First of all, you're going to need a size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, as well as an I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, and a size J or 10 or 6.00 millimeter crochet hook. And as always, I recommend that you have a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. You also need a size L or 8.00 millimeter or larger crochet hook when forming the chains for the backpack straps. You will also need a number 4 or worsted weight 100% cotton material, and it's very important that you use cotton and not acrylic because this will make your bag and backpack last much longer than an acrylic style fiber would. And I'm going to need approximately 7 of these. You can use any number 4 weight cotton yarn that you have available. You will need approximately 800 yards of whichever you choose. You're also going to need about 20 yards of paracord. One pack, this is 100 feet. This is plenty, and I picked this up at my local Michael's store. And I'm also going to be using, this is optional, but I'm going to be using some colorful beads to decorate the end of the strands of the bag with. And when you find beads or decide to use some, make sure that the hole openings, you see right here, that they are large enough in order for the paracord to slip through. Okay, I wanted to show you a picture of what we're going to be making and explain what we're first going to do. We're going to make 2 panels, and we are going to be crocheting back and forth in this direction as we crochet. We're going to start with a low front ridge, followed by the cable stitch, another low front ridge, and then we're going to work the diamond pattern back to a low front ridge, the cable stitch, and a low front ridge again. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to make our first panel, but you're going to need to make 2 of these in order for us to complete the backpack. To begin, we're going to be using the size J or 10 or 6.00 millimeter crochet hook. We're going to make our slip knot like so. And we are going to chain 51 chains. After working the 51 chains for row 1, we're going to start in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across the row. So this is what you should have after the first row. Now we're going to turn and we're going to work the low front ridge, and in order to do that, we're going to chain 1. We're not going to work in the first stitch, but this is not going to affect our stitch count because it's what we do after this row that will continue the stitch count. Okay, so working in the next stitch, we're going to work a slip stitch, working only in the front loop. Okay, so bring a slip stitch, and we're going to work this all the way across the row. Okay, just like this, and just to show you that the remaining loop, the back loop, remains free, and we're going to be working a single crochet in that once we complete this row of slip stitches. After working those slip stitches all the way across, it should have taken out a lot of the curl that you may have had from working row 1. So now we're going to turn, chain 1, and we're going to work this is actually row 3, but of the low front ridge, it's actually the second row because that's a 2-row repeat. So working in the remaining loops, which are right here, we're going to work single crochets in each remaining loop across. And just go that a little bit slower here and show you where these remaining loops are. Okay, I'm do a couple of these with you. And if you're not sure which strand it is, look for that single crochet, and it should be the strand right in front of it. Okay, so go ahead and work this all the way across, and do be sure that you have 50 single crochets. This is very important that you maintain the stitch count in this project. And you can see, let me just show you the nice ridge. There we go. The nice ridge that this has produced. We're going to begin working the cable stitch, and we start with a single crochet. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch. Now to form the cables, we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to turn our work so that we can work in the chain 3. And just working along one side of the chain, you don't have to work in the back bump, just work on the side. We're going to single crochet in each of those 3 chains. And the single crochet that we first made at the beginning, we're just going to work a slip stitch in that stitch. We're going to turn our work again with the front side facing. This is the front side when you see the low front ridge. And you can hold this cable section down, and we're going to single crochet in those 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, I do have an additional video listed in a video description below should you want to see a longer, more detailed video on this stitch, but I will be careful to do this for you again, or once or twice more. Chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches that haven't been used, 1, 2, single crochet in that 3rd stitch, and again turn, single crochet in each of those 3 chains you just made, 1, 2, and 3, slip stitch in the next single crochet working through both loops, and then turn the work again, and you can hold the cable down to reveal the 2 stitches that you skipped. We're just going to work single crochets in those stitches. Okay, so now we have 2 cables. Let me do this for you one more time for those of you who've never seen this before. Chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, single crochet in that next stitch, and we're going to turn, single crochet in each of those 3 chains that we just made, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in that next single crochet, turn the work again, and pull the cable down in front, and then revealing those 2 stitches that we skipped, and we're going to single crochet in those 2 stitches. So now we have 3 cables. You're going to work this across until you have 16 cables. After you complete those, we'll work a single crochet in that last stitch, but I will do that with you. After working the cables all the way across, and I do have 16, you should have 1 single crochet left, and we are just going to work a single crochet in that last stitch. Okay, so we're going to turn. So this is row 5 of the project, or row 2 of the cable stitch. We're going to work a single crochet in that first stitch, and then we're going to work 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then as you pull back the cable a little bit, 1 single crochet in that space right there. And so the repeat across the back of the cables is in the first single crochet behind the cables, we're going to work 2 single crochets, and then 1 single crochet, and this is when you pull back the cable here, 1 single crochet in that space. So I'll do that again. 2 in the next space, and then 1 in the next space. So essentially you're going to have 3 single crochets behind each cable all the way across. So after working 3 single crochets behind each cable, work 1 single crochet at the end of the row, just like this, and you should have a total of 50 single crochets worked across the row. Now we're going to turn and we're going to repeat the low front ridge, rows 1 and 2 again. So I will start you off on this. We're going to chain 1, and remember we skipped the first loop, working only in the front loop, work slip stitches all the way across the row, working only in the front loop, and then we will turn, chain 1, and then we will work single crochets in the remaining loop across that row. So go ahead and finish the next 2 rows. This is rows 6 and 7, and work the low front ridge, which again is the same as what we just completed down here. This is what you should have after completing 7 rows. Now, before we do the next 2 rows, rows 8 and 9, we're going to change. Instead of using the size J hook, we're going to go down 1 size smaller to the size I or 9 or 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. So we're going to go ahead, and rows 8 and 9 are the same. We're going to turn, chain 1, and we are simply going to work in both loops. We're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So go ahead and work rows 8 and 9, just working single crochets in each stitch. And again, if the stitch count changes, I will let you know, but we're going to have 50 stitches across. Now for row 10, we're going to work the first row with the diamond stitch using the treble crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, we're going to single crochet in the first stitch. Now we're going to work a treble crochet 1, 2, 3 rows down. This was the first row of single crochets, which was actually part of the low front ridge, but we're going to count this and use this as part of the diamond stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to count to the 4th stitch. 1, 2, 3, the 4th stitch on the very 3 rows of single crochet below, and then we're going to work a treble crochet, but a front post treble, by working the hook around the stitch like so, and then completing that treble crochet. We're going to skip, working on the current row, we're going to skip this single crochet, and we're going to single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. This is probably the trickiest part of this, because if you don't fasten this stitch, anchor this stitch correctly, then the diamonds can be off for the rest of the project. So after working those 4 single crochets, we're going to work another treble crochet in the stitch right next to where the last one was worked. So the last treble crochet was worked here. We're going to work it in the stitch right next to it. And again, working on this bottom row, we're going to skip 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to treble crochet around the next stitch. Okay, and do make sure that you have skipped 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches down here. Now back on the current row, we're going to skip 2 stitches, and that's to account for the 2 trebles that we just crocheted here. 1, 2, and then starting in the next stitch, crochet 4 more single crochets, 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. And then we're going to repeat that across the row. So we're going to treble crochet in the stitch 3 rows below, right next to where the last one was worked. And then skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then treble crochet in that next stitch. And again, skipping 2 stitches at the current row, 1, 2, and then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. It's 2, 3, 4. So this is what this should look like. So go ahead and work this all the way across. After working this all the way across, we're going to end the row. After working those 4 single crochets, we're going to work 1 more treble crochet next to that last treble, work down 3 rows below, skip the next single crochet, and then single crochet in that last single crochet. So you still should have 50 stitches all the way across, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 diamonds, or half of the diamonds begun. So now for the next 3 rows, we're simply going to chain 1, turn, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch across. So go ahead and work 3 rows working single crochets all the way across, and once again the stitch count should not change. You should have 50 stitches in each row across. Now we're ready for row 14. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in the first 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to work a front post double crochet 3 rows down, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work it just on top of the stitch that is above the previous front post treble. So it's actually 1, 2, 3 stitches in from the right. So we work that stitch right there. And then now we're going to work 1 over the stitch over here, or you can count 4 stitches in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we work it around that next single crochet, which again is 1, 2, 3 stitches, or I'm sorry, 3 rows below. Now we work back on the current row, and we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then starting in that next stitch, we work 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's just pause and look at this diamond that we formed here. If yours does not look like this, or if it's leaning excessively one direction or the other, you may need to reevaluate your stitch count. Okay, so let's do that again. We're going to single crochet right above, so you find out where that last post was made, and the stitch right above that is the one that we're going for. And this should be the one that was right next to the last front post treble crochet that we worked. Now we're ready to work the next treble crochet. We're going to count 4 stitches on 3 rows below, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that next stitch, which again is right above the treble crochet down below here, we're going to work that other treble crochet, and on current row skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then starting in that next stitch we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. Okay, let's pause and take a look at what this should look like. So your diamond should be forming like this. So go ahead and work this across the row. After working this all the way across, we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, that are behind those treble crochets, and then single crochet in the last, there you go, get the string right, in the last 3 stitches. And let's take a look at our diamonds. So you can see we have 8 diamonds across the rows. So now we're going to turn, and once again we are going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch across. We're going to do this for 3 rows. So rows 15, 16, and 17 are work single crochets in each stitch across the rows. This is what you should have after completing 17 rows. Now I want to give you a small assignment on going forward. We are going to work rows 18 through 46, which is going to be a repeat of rows 10 through 17. So row 10 started down here with the first row using the treble crochets. So we're going to repeat that all the way through row 17. We're going to do that 3 times, and then repeat rows 10 through 14 once more. Okay, so if you need help or stitch support for these rows, check below the bottom of the screen here, and I'll put a time mark so that you can return to row 10 and work through that with me should you need the stitch support. So go ahead and finish those rows, and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, just to be clear on this, you're going to have 5 diamonds wide. So going this direction, this is 1 row of diamonds, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is another way to understand and gauge where you're headed with this. So go ahead, again, work this until it is 5 diamonds wide. This is what you should have after completing those 46 rows. And let me show you how many diamonds wide and what I was meaning by that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 diamonds across. So when we turn this piece this way, which is the way it's going to be on the bag, the diamonds will be 5 across this way. Okay, so now we're ready to do one more row. We're still using the size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, and we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work single crochets in each stitch all the way across. So go ahead and finish that row, and then I'll have a small assignment. Now after completing that row of single crochets, we're going to do something very important. We're going to change back to our larger size hook, which in my case is the J or 10 or 6.00 millimeter crochet hook. And let me just go ahead and give you a small assignment. So what we're going to do for rows 48 through 53 is we are going to repeat rows 2 through 7. So row 2 would be the first row of the low front ridge where we only worked the slip stitch in the front loop, and then the second row, row 2 of the low front ridge, and then the 2 rows of the cable stitch, and then 2 more rows of the low front ridge. So go ahead and work rows 2 through 7. If you need stitch support, I'll go ahead and put that across the bottom so that you can go back to rows 2 through 7 in the video and go ahead and complete that one more time. So that will be on the other end of this panel. And then after that, I will show you what we need to do. After completing 53 rows, you should have your panel that looks like this. Okay, we're going to work one more row of single crochet. We're still using the size J hook at this point. So we're just going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across the row. After working row 54 across, we're going to turn 90 degrees to work across the row ends, and we're going to do something very, very important here. This is really, really important that you change to the smallest size hook. This is the size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and we are going to chain 1, and we are going to work in each row end, and the goal here is to work 50 stitches evenly across the row ends. Now this may look slightly different from what I'm doing right here when you work this across, but just go ahead and work 50 single crochets evenly across the row ends. After working those 50 stitches evenly across the row ends, we're going to turn 90 degrees and chain 2, and we're going to work across the foundation row, and there are 50 stitches as we work across, and I am just going to be going into the hole that is left from those single crochets. And if you're not sure, you can always look at the other side and find where the single crochets are, and I am just working over the remaining 2 strands from that foundation chain. So go ahead and work those 50 stitches across to the next corner. After working those 50 stitches across, chain 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to work in that same space as the last space, and I'm going to work 50 single crochets evenly across the row ends as I go across, just like I did at the other end of this piece. After finishing those 50 stitches, worked across the row ends, chain 2, and we're going to turn 90 degrees once more, and we're going to work single crochets in each stitch across. After working those single crochets across, which is actually over what was row 54, chain 2, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to that very first single crochet of the round, and I'm going to fasten off with a chain and a tug and go ahead and clip a generous strand so that it will be easy to hide later on. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've just completed, and this is with the perimeter round all the way around each side. You should have a total of 200 single crochets and 4 chain 2 corners, 50 stitches across each side. So now all you need to do is duplicate this, make one more panel, and then I'll show you how to connect them, and we will finish off the top and work on the straps. So now we're ready to join the 2 panels, and let me just show you that I have the outside or the correct side facing outward and the same on the other side, and notice that the cables are going up and down here. Just want to make sure I'm as clear as I can be. And so we are still using our smaller crochet hook. This is the H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and I'm going to stick this hook in both of the chain 2 spaces. And now I'm going to make a slip knot. This yarn can be a little bit stiff at times, but that's what's going to make it last a long time. Okay, so we're going to make a chain. Go ahead and pull that tight. So now that we have our yarn set, we are actually going to work from this direction to this direction, which is the opposite of what you're used to working. And we are going to work the knurl stitch or the reverse single crochet or the crab stitch. Some of you may know it by one of those names. I'm going to demonstrate this for you. Now, if this looks too difficult for you to do, and if you've had experience with this stitch and you just don't want to use it, I understand. What you can do instead is, I'll go ahead and show you, is start on the other side right here, join the yarn, and just work slip stitches all the way across over the 3 sides. So I just wanted to give you an option right at the start in case you know that you don't want to do this stitch. But let me just go ahead and demonstrate it for you. It does make a lovely texturized trim. Okay, so we put our hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. And we're just going to do this all the way around, making sure we go through. Let me show you 4. See those 4 loops, 2 loops of this single crochet and 2 loops of that single crochet. And like this. It's a little bit stiffer because of this cotton, and not to mention the awkwardness of the stitch. But it is very doable. So what we're going to do is we're going to work this in each set of stitches all the way to the corner. When we get to the corner, we'll work one of these in the chain 2 space across the bottom, one in the chain 2 corner, and then up the other side. Make sure that you leave this portion open and do not disconnect your yarn once you finish this, because we're going to go right into the top trim after this. We're not going to disconnect our yarn. So go ahead and work this knurl stitch working through, again, all 4 loops as you work it. After having worked this all the way around, I'm going to work the last reverse single crochet in that chain 2 space, and then I'm also going to work a slip stitch, kind of a reverse slip stitch, and pull that tight. That way it'll be snug. Just want to give you a quick look at the edging. That's one side, and this will be the bottom of the bag, and this is the side where we started. Okay, now we are going to work the top border, and this is round 1. We're going to chain 3. Go ahead and work a double crochet in that first, actually in that chain 2 space. Chain 2. We're going to skip 1 stitch here, and then we're going to work 2 double crochets in the next space. Okay, now what we're going to do going forward is going to be what we're going to repeat. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Okay, notice that this is different from what we have just done. Now we're going to chain 2 again, chain 2, and this is what we're going to repeat across this row. Skip 2, and we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next stitches. Now we're going to work this across this one side of this panel until you have 14 of these 2 stitch clusters, or 2 stitch 2 double crochets. Okay, but work 1 in each stitch as you go across. Okay, just to be clear, I wanted to show you what I have across the one side, and that's until we get to the join. Okay, so we have 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of the 2 double crochets. This is the same as what is in the written pattern. I just tried to make that a little clearer for you because it's very important that you have the correct number of these as you go across. Now for the second panel, we're going to go ahead and skip those 2 chain 2 spaces, 1, 2, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in that next space. Chain 2. We're going to skip 1 stitch, and then we're going to work a double crochet in that next stitch, and then 1 in the next stitch. Chain 2, and this is what we're going to repeat across the row. Skip 2, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Chain 2, I'll do that for you again. Skip 2, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So go ahead and work that across, and I'll show you how to finish this round. Okay, after working these around, we have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. I'm going to skip 1 stitch and work 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and chain 2, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to that first double crochet, which is also a chain 3. So let's go ahead. I'm going to grab 2 strands of that so I can join, and let's just, I want to be very clear on this. On the other side of the knurl stitch, we should have 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of the 2 double crochet clusters. You should have a total of 28 of these clusters all the way around the top, and you should have 28 chain 2s, or in other words, you should have 56 double crochets, and remember that this chain counts as a double crochet, and 28 sets or 56 chains around. Okay, now for round 2, we're going to chain 3. Okay, we're going to double crochet in that next double crochet. And now all the way around, we're going to work 2 double crochets in the chain 2 spaces, and then 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. Okay, so that's going to be a repeat. I'll show that to you one more time. 2 double crochets in those chain 2 spaces, and a double crochet in each double crochet as you work around the top. At the end of round 2, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, which doubles as a double crochet, and you should have a total of 112 double crochets. That's including this turning chain on that round. Now we're going to chain 1 to begin round 3, and we're going to single crochet. There we go. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and the pattern says to single crochet. I believe that's a typo. That should be a double crochet in that same space, just like this. We're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to work that in the next single crochet, chain 3, and a double crochet. This is working the eyelet around. Skip the next stitch, and this is what we're going to work all the way around. Single crochet, chain 3, and then a double crochet worked in that same space. So go ahead and work this all the way around the top. At the end of the round, I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to skip one and work single crochet, chain 3, and double crochet in the last stitch, and then join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of the round, and then fasten off. Okay, now we need to make the straps. Now I've got my paracord and my large crochet hook, and I am going to make these straps. And let me show you. First of all, I would hold off about 12 inches to 14 inches at the end of this here, because we're going to need that extra length. Let me show you. Okay, so don't start off with your slip knot way down here. You're going to need a nice strand, because we're going to add some decorative beads. Again, that's optional, but I think you're going to want to do that. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to make 2 of these. Okay, I'm going to show you how to start it, but you're going to make 2 chains that are 66 inches long, just like this. Okay, I'm just making just a simple chain. Okay, and when you measure these, make sure that you pull them tightly, so that when you measure them, that both of them are exactly the same size, because these are going to be the backpack straps that go around your shoulders. So go ahead, crochet 2 66-inch chains. All right, so now you should have the bag that looks something like this. And don't worry if this top here is a little bit lacy. That's kind of part of the design, okay? And when you close this up, once we put the straps in, it's going to have a much nicer look. Okay, and you should have 2 of these straps, each 66 inches long. Now, if you want to make them longer, you can. That's up to you. But you really aren't going to need much more. And you do need to make sure that these are the same length. And do notice that I left more than a foot, but you need at least minimally a foot, 14 inches on each end. Of course, this is, I overshot that a bit, but anyway, I had plenty of nylon, so I'm good to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're going to do with these. Okay, so here we have alongside the edge, and this is the knurl stitch where we put the panels together, and going into this first hole right here, we're going to go in and out the window, okay? In and out. And we're going to work this all the way around. I'll go ahead and work this around. Okay, and you're going to have to kind of work with it as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'll go ahead and just do this with you since we'll make the turn and everything just to show you how I'm doing this. Okay, now we get to the other side and just keep a going. Okay, just in and out, in and out. Okay, and just give it another pull. Okay, so just keep loading this. And don't worry about, if it gets a little bit twisted, it really isn't going to matter in the long run. Okay, so now we get to the end, and it should come right out just like this. Okay. And then one thing that you're going to want to do is to make sure that you have the same length on each side here. Okay, so I'm going to just pull that back a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. And don't worry if it's not perfect just yet, because we've got another one to wind in. Okay, but what we're going to do with the second one is we're going to find where this is on the other side right here, and we're going to go in and out the window and go in the same direction as you did with the other cords. Okay, it'll just make it easier to open and close the bag. So go ahead and do this to the other side. It does go in a lot easier with the second one. Okay. Now this is where it's going to be different. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go around this and just, again, in and out the window, but we're going the other direction, or the same direction as we did before. It's just that where one side's going to stop on this side, the other is going to be the opposite of that, symmetrical to that. Okay. And almost there. And we got one more to go in and out. Okay, so both of these, as you can see, came out the other side. And so again, just want to try to even them up as best as you can. It's not okay. There we go. Because these will even up themselves. Okay, and so now the next thing we need to do is we need to fasten these to the other side, and you need to decide yourself which do you want to be the front and which to be the back. So I think this is going to be the back for me, because the front side of the knurl stitch will be showing outward. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hold these two ends that came from this side. You can do this on both sides, and I'm going to make a knot just like that, and I'm going to make sure that that knot forms as close to the base of these strands as possible, and give it a super good tug so that's not going to go anywhere. And if you're not sure and you want to do it again, you certainly can, but I think one is going to be good enough for what we're doing here. Now what we're going to do, we are going to find, let's go ahead and use our crochet hook, and we're going to make a corner. Okay, so right about here. Okay, you can put your crochet hook through. Now you're going to want to make sure that it's not just on the edge, but in just a tiny bit, because this is going to help secure these straps. And we're going to pull this through. Let's see if I picked a big enough hook to do this. I may need a larger hook. All right, that worked. All right. Well, I got one strand, and let's bring the other one through. This is a little tough to get through, but that's a good thing because that means it's going to be secure. Okay, so see how the knot is pulled tightly here? We want to make another knot on the other side, just like this. Pull it and just push that knot up against the work there. Okay, now this is where I would go ahead and make a second knot. And I would do it on top of the knot that was already there. And this is just to help prevent this from pulling through your work. I doubt it's going to, but you know, it doesn't hurt to do another one. Okay, and then once we do that, we're going to do the same thing on the other side right here. So again, make a knot. And this is why you need those 12 to 14 inches, because you need to be able to have the material there to knot this up. Okay, very important. Okay, and again, let's bring our crochet hook and pull these strands through. Well, still one at a time, but that's okay. Just make sure that you're pulling them through the same place. There we go. Okay, and so after we do that, we're going to make another double knot, just like that. Hold that tight and do it one more time, and make sure that it does wrap around the other knot. This just kind of makes it a little bit bigger, and make sure we pull it nice and tight. Okay, so now the only thing we need to do is to add some decorative beads to the ends. Okay, now that I've picked out the beads that I'm going to put on each end, do make sure that the hole is large enough for the thread here, for the nylon to go through, okay? Otherwise it could be a little difficult. All right, and feel free to be creative here. You can use wooden beads. May even have some really nice buttons, or you know, anything that you'd want to decorate the end. So I'm going to put these on the end. This is just what I've had in my stash. And then I'm going to tie a nice knot. I'm just going to tie it one time. Make sure, okay, so yeah, one knot should be fine. And you could actually move that knot down just a bit. It's okay if they slide around. You know, these are just decorative, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this fraying at the end, so I'm just going to put a piece of Scotch tape on the end, just a temporary piece, just like that. And this should help it to load better into the beads. Let's see if this works. Go ahead and pinch it at the end there. Yep, there you go. Loads right on. That way you don't have to take out your match. Although if you need to, you can always just, you know, light the end just a tad and it will melt the nylon, but I prefer that you not have to do that. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space there, just a little bit for them to slide. Okay, and just tie a knot. And if you think you need to do a double knot, you can, but it's not necessary. And then I'm going to just cut and trim them just like this. Okay. So all I need to do now is load the beads on the other end, and then I will show you what I have. Well, I hope you enjoyed making the diamonds and cable backpack with me today. If you did, please hit that thumbs up if you're watching on the YouTube platform, or just leave a comment below. I would love to hear your comment. God bless. Bye-bye.